Hello and welcome to this MSP Voice Webinar Series. Sorry, with vCIOToolbox. I've got Brian Doyle waiting on the line here to do some presentation with you. Thanks to MSP 360, who is the sponsor for MSP Voice. Be sure to check out mspvoice.com for the podcast as well as past webinars. A version of this, a recording of this will be posted on there within 7 days, so be sure to check that out if you missed parts of it. But with that, Brian, welcome. Excited to hear about vCIOToolbox.
Thanks, Doug. Really appreciate you having us on board today. And, congratulations again to Cloudberry, now MSP 360 on the branding switch.
Thank you.
Things are going well there. But yes, looking forward to being a part of this today and looking forward to telling everybody that's on this webinar exactly how vCIOToolbox can potentially help them avoid the curse. So with that being said, first I'll tell you a little bit about, what our mission is and what vCIOToolbox is all about. We really look at ourselves as kind of a strategic account management platform. And kind of central and core to that, of course, is doing quarterly business reviews or running your vCIO program. And really what our mission is for our clients is to build a platform where they can better engage with their clients, be able to get a little bit more strategic and bring a better business to technology alignment within their MSP relationships. Certainly one thing, I've always loved about MSPs is the more mature they become, the better they are at service operations, and they become almost seamless within that process. But one of the things that's sometimes lacking is getting that perceptional view a little bit higher up on the food chain with their clients, where they're a true strategic partner, helping push the business forward and not just being there to solve the problems that they incur. So with our platform, really what we're trying to do is help you structure a process. So when you're working with your small to mid-sized business customer right up through the enterprise, you've got a standardized way that you approach your strategic meetings. Everybody knows what to expect, and they can get engaged with you in a lot easier fashion. So that's a little bit about what vCIOToolbox is about.
Great, sounds good. Tell me more.
Well, we referenced the curse, right? So, how do we even get to be here? So I spent about 20 years in the MSP space, the majority of them as an MSP owner, like many of you may be on this webinar. And one of the things that hit me pretty early on in my career, and I'm sure many of you experienced that, is it's almost the better you become, you can be penalized at this. So what we call the curse around vCIOToolbox is simply this. As an MSP evolves, they build systems to automate processes. They're doing more things remotely with their clients. They're getting really good at being proactive and stopping problems before they happen. So obviously the good news is, hey, there's less downtime and then there's less issues that the customer is feeling. And you would think, hey, that's great, right? A couple pats on the back and maybe a few high fives would be ready for you at that stage. But a lot of times, if you're not engaging at the right points within the company, meaning you're maybe pigeonholed with your direct contact, you're not getting visibility into their C-suite, their CIOs and their CFOs and their CEOs, there could be a perception that nothing breaks anymore. And why are we paying this much for it? And we all know everybody's got a cousin Johnny or somebody like that does IT. And next thing you know, they're shopping you strictly on pricing, saying that they're not having problems anymore, and they don't understand truly what's happening in the background. Mm-hmm. And as it says right here on the slide, you get that dreaded phone call that tells you you're out, even though you've done a great job.
Yeah, so you become the victim of your own success.
Exactly. You do things so well, you find that you've made yourself perceptionally obsolete. And what we really want to do is make sure that you're showing and demonstrating at every step of the way how you're driving value for that customer and continuing to reinforce that with a regularly scheduled process, whether it's quarterly, biannually, or annually with your customer, where you're really sitting down with them and trying to understand more about their business and showcase what you've done in the past. So, what do we do? And I hate the cliche trusted advisor, but here it is in my slide. We help you become your client's trusted advisor. And what we really mean by that is we're really working with MSPs on going from that perception of being a break-fix organization to truly becoming a business consultant for their customers. And that really means, and for those of us that are business owners, taking those things that we're learning every day and understanding that our customers are facing those challenges too, and then helping them figure out how they can integrate the right technologies to help support those objectives or those challenges their business is feeling, and then help them achieve their goals. Problem is, and something we see, and the beauty of the position I sit in is I get to talk to a lot of MSPs across the globe, and I really get to understand how they're handling their strategic process, or more importantly, their QBRs. And one of the things I'm hearing time and time again is that there's some challenges they face within the QBRs, and a lot of it's because they really don't have a structure to get more strategic and less tactical. So you'll see some of the common QBR challenges listed here. First thing is getting the right people in the room and keeping them there. What do I mean by that? Well, we want line of business people, the people that are not directly affiliated with technology, but are making the decisions on how to propel a business. We want to get those folks into the conference room and make sure that we've got content that's going to keep them there from session to session and give them a reason to come back and engage with us. Because ultimately, these are the people that can be our U-boat commander, if you will, and have us removed from an account if they don't feel that they're getting the value they need to drive their jobs. A second thing that I see that's a big challenge for MSPs is keeping the meeting on track. Generally, what I hear from a lot of folks that come and take demos with vCIOToolbox is, we get into these meetings and they immediately turn into gripe sessions about the issues of the past week, the past month, or the past day. And whether you use vCIOToolbox or not, we believe that you can implement a process where you're able to set the table with these clients and really tell them, look, up front, we're coming in for a strategic session. We're not going to talk about those problems of the day. If you'd like to get more in depth on that, let's schedule a second meeting. We can actually have that meeting right after our strategic session, after we excuse the business folks from the meeting. But we really want to keep this meeting on track. And that's something that within our process and our platform, we're able to help out with. Another common challenge that most MSPs face in doing QBRs is they don't know what content to bring. And it's never the same from meeting to meeting. So there's a lot of inconsistent data points where they've got big reports, the old FUD factor. Let's bring in as much paper and as much data as we can so people see all of the great stuff we're doing. And the problem is people get totally unfocused in those meetings when they do that. They start looking at problems that don't matter, and they lose focus on the things that you want to drive home. Similarly, reports can be too technical. Most SMB clients that we're dealing with, the reason we're there is we are their IT department, or they've got a very small and skinny IT department, and we're reinforcing where those gaps are. So if we're bringing technical reports to users that are non-technical, they just get confused, they don't see value, and they're not going to continue coming to the meetings or scheduling the meetings with us. So we want to make sure that as we're delivering, information back to these folks, we're speaking in the language they understand. And what I'll close out with is, it's the business to technology alignment. Oftentimes we'll talk to our clients about the flavor of the day or the vendor we just spoke to, or we'll focus strictly on the tactical needs like obsolete hardware, but we're really not trying to understand those key business initiatives that our clients are going through that are really going to drive and propel what our technology projects are with them long term and what their technology roadmap is going to look like. So how do we answer the bell on this? Well, we've got a process. And again, I said, while I want everybody, of course, to come to vCIOToolbox and use the vCIO Pro platform, the reality is this QBR process is something I believe in, and I was doing before I launched vCIOToolbox on my own. But we certainly make it a lot simpler, and we'll be showing you that in just a couple moments as well on how we implement it in our platform. But really, it's a 6-step process to really delivering a very good high-value QBR. The first step is setting that table in advance. You want to make sure that everybody understands what this meeting's about. As I mentioned before, that we're really going to delve deep into, your business and what's propelling it today, and then try to understand where the gaps are in your technology to then develop a roadmap that meets your budgetary needs to get you there. And more importantly, what other meeting expectations are there? Well, who do we need in that room? We need those decision makers. And you want to get an agenda out to your client prior to this meeting so they really have an understanding of how the meeting flow is going to go. And that's how you get away from that tactical issue of talking about the day-to-day issues. Second step in the process is just we call it an ounce of preparation, but really what we're saying to you is give yourself time to prepare for the meeting. A lot of times when I'm talking to folks during my demos, they'll tell me that they're only scheduling these QBR events 7 to 10 days before they're going out for the meeting. It's not a lot of time to really thoroughly review their environment, understand where the issues might live within their environment, prepare quality recommendations with good estimates and/or full proposals, and be able to get out there and deliver this. So, we really suggest in our process, you schedule your meetings at least 30 days in advance. And when you schedule that first one, maybe schedule them for the next year and get those things on the calendar so everybody knows when they're coming into play, and be able to give yourself the time to really prepare and put together a nice presentation for each one of your clients. Step 3, showtime. This is when we get out to the client. So we want to really get out there and follow that agenda that we created, talk about the business first, really understand what's driving their company, make sure the assumptions you're making are in fact true or haven't changed, from QBR to QBR. And then at that point, we show usually a summary IT review, and then we introduce the dynamic 3-year roadmap. And these roadmaps are really meant to be dynamic, because one of the things that we want to show is what we've accomplished in the past, but what's still in front of us on the journey with a client. And these are the things that we improve client retention, as an example, with our clients, or get better loyalty into the products that we're putting forth with them, because we're showing that this is really kind of an evolving process that never ends.
Okay, so the 3-year roadmap, is that taking past and future?
It's taking past. We're always trying to keep 2 to 3 years in the future. So that, that dynamic piece is definitely showing what's upcoming, but we have a way that within our platform, we're able to also reflect back and be able to show somebody that might be questioning, what have you done for me lately? Well, here's what we've done to date. Here's where we still need to go, right? Step 4 is taking action. Even though the meeting's over, we're not done, right? We all know we come out of a client meeting like this with action items, maybe modifications we need to do to the recommendations that we're presenting to our clients. Maybe there's new tickets that evolve out of that system, and we want to make sure that we capture those in before we complete our final report for that QBR period or that business review period. And that's really what step 5 is about. Now we archive off that report, we get that place and time, we get all the metrics from that place and time, and then we send the client at this stage their complete review, which might include all 200 plus questions we have within vCIOToolbox. And that's the report that they need for presenting to regulatory compliance, auditors, other people that are looking for assessments, and be able to show exactly what's going on in their environment. And step 6 is really easy. It's just measure and repeat. Now that we've gotten to a benchmark standpoint in that first business review with the client, we're now measuring how we're progressing against their strategic plan over time, and we're repeating this process, whether again it's quarterly, biannually, or annually with your client. And if you see up here, we do have a link. This PowerQBR blueprint is available for download on our website. You can pull it down. Obviously, it goes into a little bit greater detail than what I took you through here. But certainly, like I said, whether you're on vCIOToolbox or not, if you don't have a process for approaching QBRs, that might be a document that can help you out. So before we jump into the demo, what I'll close off, there's really 4 things that we try to accomplish within the platform with our clients. First one's helping them develop that client strategy and really getting an understanding of their business goals, challenges, and IT goals. We then go into the meat of the matter, which is the IT review, and really do a very in-depth assessment of their environment that goes beyond just the technical infrastructure concerns, but also looks at policy, procedure, and other in process as part of the IT review as well. When done with this will help, the process will take you through and basically develop your technology roadmap, which we're able to share with our customers. And then we've got a number of flexible report and custom reports that you can develop. So you're sending the right reports to the right people within the organization. So with that said, I'm going to escape out of the slideshow and we'll dive into the platform itself.
Great, sounds good.
And Doug, I'm assuming you can see the platform.
Yes.
Fantastic.
The global dashboard.
All right. So the global dash, one of the things that we believe very strongly about too is, in addition to trying to work with our clients in this, that we also have the ability to measure ourselves as a program. I know how much time it takes to prepare for a QBR, and the way you can really, and sometimes it's tough to measure that return on investment that you're putting forth in developing a platform like this or a program like this. So we want to make sure that we got some key statistics out in front of you at all times, so you know how you're progressing against the storm when you talk about the vCIOToolbox in your QBR efforts. On the top line here, on our dashboard, we're really just simply showing you which customers have the most challenges today. When we're looking at how we grade a question that we're assessing and whether or not it has negative impact, we really look at, does it meet best practices? Does it potentially pose a business risk? Or is there a technological vulnerability associated with it? And then, of course, we want to keep those customers that have the largest problems within your ecosystem right here front and center. If you want to get some additional information, you'll see all over the dashboard, you can drill down a little bit deeper and get that additional information as you move forward. Some of those areas are hyperlinked and they'll take you right to the question and if appropriate as well. Over here, you'll notice a tile that says customers with low scores. This ties back to what we have within our system, which is a health score algorithm. And that algorithm basically takes all the assessment questions that you put together and develops a health score for the customer environment, both at the infrastructure level and at the process and policy level as well. That score, though, is adjustable by you. So you can set that as 95, 97, you can set that at 90. And what it really does for the algorithm is it tells us where the green statuses are and where the red statuses are. So above that number, we're going to see green. Below that number, you're going to see red. Down below this, we've got a 30-day meeting roadmap. This is just basically where all your meetings that you've got upcoming will show themselves. Any new meeting goes into default. We then usually pass it to an engineer who does the technical scrub on it. The vCIO then comes back through and looks at that scrub and adds comments or questions. And then we move things into the pending column. The pending column is where a report stays until after you do the live event with your client. That way you can come back, add those things that we just talked about during the PowerQBR description, where we go in and add those tickets, modify those recommendations, and then we finalize that report. Once we finalize that report, that's where we really start gaining some incredible efficiencies within the platform. The first assessment with the customer takes the time a first assessment would take, right? Not surprising, it's going to take a little bit of effort. But after you do that first business review event and you go into the next business review, all that work that you did in Q1 would move to Q2 at that point in time. And at that stage, you're really just taking any of the red values and hopefully moving them back to green and updating the notes there. And any green values that may have fallen to red, you'll have to update at that stage. But if it was green last quarter and green this quarter, there's nothing that usually needs to be changed. And the reports we get from the field is it's taking about 20% of the original assessment's time to do all subsequent assessments for your client as you take them through their vCIO program journey. Final thing we got on the dashboard is just tracking those metrics, like I said. We want to make sure we know exactly what recommendations we're making and how much they're valued. As we start closing those recommendations, we want to see how much revenue this program is influencing. We silo out our recommendations. One's in a column with anything that has a dollar amount tied to it. Over here, we've got our $0 recommendations. And what those really are is the things that you owe your client contractually. I like to pick on complex passwords a lot when I get to this point, because it's one of the easier things to implement for a customer. It's one of the most difficult things to coordinate because of how many people work remotely and have smartphones. But those are the kind of things that if we're not staying on top of, if we have a problem, can come back to bite us. So that's kind of the high level on the dashboard. Thing I'll show you also from a program level is as you assign different vCIOs, you can filter this dashboard and look at their independent personal statistics as you go through it. And again, that's because we like to manage things at a program level. Another quick program control to look at is our roadmap summary. So each customer has their own technology roadmap, and once we dive into a customer, you'll see how similar this looks. But this is a rolled up view of all the people that you're putting through the process right now and developing roadmaps for within your MSP client base. And what we're able to see here real quick is kind of the visual Gantt chart of when these projects are going to land. You'll see as you roll over things, you can get a little bit of detail as well. And this kind of helps you at a glance to see if you're going to have any resource constraints or too many projects at one time within a given customer, and you're able to then work with them on making those adjustments within your roadmap. Below that, you get a forecast for yourself, so you can get kind of an understanding of what projects are out there within the vCIO program today, and exactly at what points those projects should be maturing and hopefully converting into revenue for your business. All of our roadmaps are dynamic, so whatever the first date of a project is through the furthest date out, the roadmaps will adjust themselves, and you'll see they kind of go year over year. I'll go into the check marks in a few minutes when we get into a client, but this again is just another high level view. And again, you can filter down at the individual rep level and look at them one by one. So with that said, let's dive into a customer.
Yeah, I'm interested. It's interesting to see how this initial assessment goes, because I'm like you said, I'm assuming it takes a lot of time for the initial one.
It takes a bit of time, but we put in a lot of tools to try to help speed up that time. So one of the things that I'll tell you about is we provide you with a number of pre-canned templates. So we have a catalog of roughly 14 QBR templates, and then we're adding a lot of one-off templates as well, which I'll go into in a moment. These templates are really easy to work with, but what they're really geared to do is, if you are an MSP that doesn't have time to create your own content, you can take those templates, stack them together based on your customer's contract, and be able to then conduct a review. So what I'll do here is just hop in and you'll see this is our list of templates, really easy to interact with. You can click into the template, rearrange the order of the items, however you arrange them here, that's how they'll show up within your reports. If you feel we've missed topics in our base templates, you can add them here. You then can come in and look at all the questions we have. You can adjust those questions. All of our questions have 3 ways that you can ultimately interact with them. You can create a text field, you can create a yes/no answer, or you can create a list for the answers. In this case, it's about hypervisors, so you'll see we've got a couple different list choices here. We put the question text and we back them all up with a best practice that are in layman's terms. So if you're talking to a customer about a hypervisor and they have no idea what that means, what you're able to then say to them is part of the reason this happens to be for a group that is VMware heavy. Hey, ESX is our preferred type 1 hypervisor, and we do that for security and manageability of your environment. Even if I'm a layman now, if you've got a recommendation to put against that, I can understand a little bit better. Hey, now I get why you're trying to do that. The other thing I want to point out down there, and sorry for clicking off that, is we have our question weighting system, which is a scale of 1 to 5. This ties back to the health score algorithm. What we want to make sure is, as you go through your IT reviews, that the penalties being assessed to questions are kind of commiserate with call it the crime that they're causing. A 10-year-old domain controller is obviously a lot bigger problem than not having an IT asset list. So we want to make sure that if we're penalizing it, that more points come off for that 10-year-old domain controller than come off for an IT review. Now, what I'm really demonstrating here is, while we give you a lot of this data so you can get out of the gate quickly, you can customize anything that we provide for you, and you can override any of our pre-canned weights if you feel like we've missed the mark as well. Other things that we have that kind of separate us from some of our competitors within the marketplace is our recommendations engine. So for every IT review question we provide you at least 1, if not 2, industry standard recommendations that you can use while going through your assessment. And these will help you move through that process of creating your IT review or your QBR documents in a much faster fashion. So you can choose those, you can add your own to the global templates, and at the individual customer level, you can go ad hoc as well. I'll close off with templates. You can create your own, and you can also import and export those as CSVs. So if you want to do mass updates or mass changes, you can do that without having to go to every individual question. Does that kind of help you out a little bit, Doug, on how that stuff gets formed? Yeah,
definitely.
Perfect.
I like the import. I like the export import too. That's always nice.
Most people do, because we do supply a master template, and what we're seeing becoming kind of the norm now is that customers will take our master template and then they'll start taking that template, modifying it to their packages, and then they might custom add 10 or 15 questions that they feel are important to their customers within it that they felt might be missing, or they might just truncate ours down from 200 down to 125 core questions. So it's really left to the individual. You can get unique, but we help you get started.
Cool.
So now I'll jump into the IT review. So everything we do once we get to when we start building a client QBR begins at scheduling a meeting. So we've got an integrated calendar here, and basically you would title your meeting, choose if it's a QBR, a monthly event. Examples of this is folks that follow the True Methods process. They prepare QBRs, but they also do monthly checklists for their clients. So we give you the ability to run parallel reviews, if you will, at the same time for a client, and we control that by creating this meeting first. So over here, you'll see how that gets put into action. You'll notice I've got a few different meeting types here. I've got the QBR that we're working on today, and the reason it's highlighted in orange is if you go into the calendar, you'll see each stage of development of your report comes with a different color. So in this case, this I believe is vCIO review. And then you've got other ones that are in pending status. So we're going to do a cloud readiness assessment for this client in September. And you'll see if I change to that meeting, a different set of templates are associated with that review. And the reason we tie everything to a meeting is because if we've defined it as a QBR, and when we complete this QBR period, all that data will move to the next period. And as long as we've tagged our report as a QBR report, all that data will follow suit. And again, that's how you get your efficiencies of time and scale as you move through the program. Another one-time action we have, and you've kind of heard me harp on it a little bit in the beginning of the presentation today, we're very big on getting business insights from our clients to really help them develop a strategic roadmap. So this is usually an annual event you would do with your client, but we've got the ability to create custom templates. We, again, provide you with a couple. But we've got checklists that we like to send out to our client and get their feedback so we can start really developing a good QBR and strategic roadmap plan for them. So this is an example of the default checklist that we have here. And basically, we've got 3 sections that are static: business goals, business challenges, and IT goals. No matter how you customize all of our templates, these 3 goals will always be present, or 3 items will always be present. And the reason for that is their answers feed our strategy dashboard, which I'll be showing you in just a moment. So customer answers these goals, and then anything below that you can customize and make your own. Our default basically has a small technology confidence scorecard where we're really trying to get a pulse on how the customer views their technology. You know, how do they view their spending? How does management view the technology? How does staff view the technology? Things like that that kind of give us a pulse on, you know, are they confident in what they're using today and thus confident in us? Down below it, we've got technologies of interest. It's always good to know what's on your customer's mind so you can come to the QBR potentially prepared to talk about a little bit of this. But we also like it as a defensive posture. If our clients are asking us about technologies that we've yet to speak to them about, and we're seeing that happen over and over again, there's a chance that somebody else might be planting a seed in their ear, and we may be at risk in the relationship. So we gather this information, and it comes back to us in our business insights section, and you'll see you can send this out to multiple people within the environment. All you need is their email address and their contact name. When it comes back into the system, we store those here. You can view their replies right here. Again, these 3 sections will fill their strategy board. And then you can see who's got it when you received it back and whose are still outstanding. Now, in addition to, so a question that often comes up for me when we get to this stage is, hey, no customer is going to fill out a form and send it back to me, or I got certain people that'll never send it back to me. It's really easy still to track that, and quite honestly, gives you another opportunity to have a touch point with your client. But you can arrange a call. Plenty of my MSPs do. They fill out this form on behalf of their customer, but it gives them that opportunity to kind of walk them through some of the questions and have a conversation with them between meetings. So again, we're always trying to drive that value uphill, and we're always trying to make sure we've got those strategic touch points with our client. So now that we've got these reports back and we've seen what the answers are, it starts building our client strategy board. And we're going to pop into this a couple times as we finish out the demo here from a client perspective. But you'll see here that those answers have started building out our business goals, and we see expand our geography, increase our profits in an environment where revenues are flat. We see those things that they're chasing as goals and challenges front and center. If you're doing this on a wide or a big screen display with your customer, we expose in the client meeting view the strategy board, the roadmap board, and the recommendations board. I'll explain in a moment why we don't share the IT review board. But part of the reason it's good to put this on display is inevitably when you're taking a customer through this meeting this portion during the live meeting, especially when you get other people collecting in the room from different areas of the business, you're going to find out other goals and challenges they're facing. And it's as simple as coming here, hitting new goal and challenge, giving it a name and dropping it in the appropriate bucket. And now you're adding to the strategic plan. Now, why does this strategic plan matter? It matters because when we start making our recommendations to our client, we're going to align those recommendations back to these goals and challenges. And think about year 2 and year 3 of this process. In most cases, customers have forgot, if you haven't even yourself, why you've done these, why you made these recommendations. And now you're able to reinforce with them the business drivers that got us to that point versus immediately going into a conversation of cost and necessity, right? So we're able to have a more business conversation instead of defending our price or defending the why. Moving on, now we'll get into the meat of the piece here, and that's the IT review. So when you get to the IT review itself, you've got a couple of steps and you've got a couple of visual indicators I want to show you. Step number 1 is you get to assign your resources here. So when you assign these resources and update them, they will then get a notification that tells them that they are part of this integrated providers quarterly business review event. They'll get a calendar invite that tells them the date that their work's due by, and they're able to then start contributing to this process. One thing I neglected to talk about was a couple of our key integrations here. And our key integrations are with ConnectWise and Autotask. So this helps automate a lot of this process as well. First, because in the case of ConnectWise in Autotask, we allow you to bring all your customers in so you can quickly work on these customers and turn them into active assessments. 2, it brings in all their assets, so you can add assets to tickets and recommendations so customers know exactly what things you're working on and what's going to be removed as part of that process. We're able to then take these appointments or these notifications that are being sent to the resources and convert those into tickets within ConnectWise and Autotask. In addition to that, for anything that we see negative in this review, and I'll be showing you this in just a moment, we're able to then create a ticket or a recommendation and push those into Autotask and ConnectWise as either a ticket or an opportunity. And for tickets, we have 2-way feedback. So as those tickets that we might create in business review period 1 are created, we'll be able to show that they've all been closed and completed in QBR 2 without bringing out the big ticket review, which includes all the automated things that happen within the RMM system that the customer has no concern on.
Okay, so is that like a continuous, like in terms of the sync and the integration? I mean, if I add a new customer in my PSA, will it automatically show up here and vice versa, or?
So I'll answer that with a yes and no, and here's what the yes and no is. Tickets and opportunities are pushed into the ConnectWise and Autotask systems real time. Customers and configuration items and ticket update statuses, we update once a day, but you do have you can manually override that at any time. Okay. The reason we do it once a day is just to reduce the amount of API calls that are going out to a client's environment, for data that's fairly static. You're not adding customers, tickets, or additional assets that often. But let's say you come into the system and you want to start a new QBR for somebody and you want to make sure you have the latest data. It's as simple as coming in here, picking your integration of choice, and clicking on sync. And literally as fast as I just did that, that's how fast the update occurs. So you've got that process where you can manually override it. But again, real time for tickets and configurations, and daily for all the more static items.
Right.
All right, so let me pop back into the review. A couple other visual indicators that I kind of want to bring out here. This is where the health score finally gets, is getting introduced into your environment. So you see your top level score here, then you see your scores by topic and subtopic flowing below. And this allows you, as you're working through the process, to be able to see where you might have some challenges. And look, you might want to take some steps to actually improve those scores before you even go out to the QBR as you're doing your preparation. So as you identify gaps, especially those gaps I talked about before that are things you owe under contract, this gives you an opportunity to see where those vulnerabilities are, quickly get in there and maybe do some updates prior to sharing this with your customer. The other thing, and I think I said it earlier, we have over 200 questions if you use all of our QBR templates for an in-depth audit. You're probably not going to finish those in one setting. So we got a number of indicators that tell you where you are. Up here, you'll see exactly how many questions you've answered and how many are remaining. In each topic, you also see a progress bar. You'll see a check mark if the question has been started. If the question hasn't been started yet, you'll see no check mark. And then you'll notice we've got 3 little dots on top and 2 boxes just below that. And those tie directly to some values within your question and answers here as well. So what I'm going to do is go to this question that wasn't answered here, where we've got no colors, and kind of demonstrate what that's about. So the first thing you do is you go in and answer your question and say whether this is yes or no. So we're going to just say, for argument's sake, we don't have working admin credentials to manage this device. And this doesn't meet our best practices. You'll notice as soon as I turn that best practice from yes to no, the first light on top goes on. If I say that determine this is technically vulnerable as well, the second light goes on, and so forth. This allows you, especially if you're in the role of vCIO coming in after an engineer, to very quickly identify which questions have problems and which questions are okay. And you can come back to and probably cut and paste an answer like this meets best practices into those fields. Down below it, you've got 2 boxes, and those boxes tie directly to the engineer review and the vCIO review. So again, if I put in an answer here as the engineer, it now lights up the box. The box over here, the left box. And now if I'm the vCIO, I know, okay, the engineer's done their work for this question. So this is a way that you can work, both parties can be working in parallel, how you keep track of where you are, especially when you got 200 questions. And then again, now think QBR1 to QBR2. When you go to the next QBR session, you're able to see all these things historically and be able to come right in here and go, great, have we improved this question? Have we improved this question? If so, then you're able to flip the switches and basically make that green again. Does it make sense?
Works for me.
Perfect.
Although I might need my readers to see everything.
Yeah, I could zoom in a little bit and probably help people out, right? But there is a lot of data, and this is one of the reasons, all kidding aside, why we don't expose the IT review worksheet as part of the customer display if we were going out to a meeting, because it really is like a spreadsheet if you think about it, right? And there's a lot of different things that would be way overwhelming for them, but are pretty simple for those of us that are working it. Down below, we can create tickets. It's as simple as putting in a summary. And I don't know why, but I'm having an issue with my keyboard, so bear with me. But we send it through, you'll see that I've just clicked it through, and you'll know that it made it to Autotask in this case, or didn't make it to Autotask, because it'll come back either with a logo or without a logo. So in this case, this is telling me there's something wrong with my integration. I'll have to take a look at that. And but we've sent our ticket through. In this case, where I've created the recommendation, it made it through, and I get the feedback logo that tells me it's now in the system. So we're able to then confirm it's there without having to go back and forth between the systems over and over and over again. Creating a new recommendation is incredibly simple. So I think I mentioned to you, if you don't like the recommendations we're providing for you, you can very quickly create a new recommendation here. So in this case, I'll just put a quick summary there. We'll put a start date and end date. Our best practice, we say, is as you're developing a technology roadmap, you probably don't know the exact dates you're going to do a project, especially if it's out in, let's say, 2020, but you might have a good sense of the quarter or the month you want to land that project in. So just, go in there, basically choose the beginning and end of that month as a best practice, and that will create the Gantt chart entry in your technology roadmap. You can put in an estimate of hours if it makes sense. You can put an estimate of service price again. And once you create this and save it, it'll pass over into the PSA and create an opportunity. And now you see that that one did go across. We've got our dollars and cents, and we got our feedback loop telling us that this did make it across to there. And obviously I didn't appropriately name it. Now is where kind of the magic happens. And what I mean by that is now we start doing the business to technology alignment. And that happens right here. We're able to then attach those goals that our customer set for us and start aligning our projects to where they're helping. And we usually look at this in 5 different ways. Can it help the customer with employee productivity? does it automate or improve workflow for a client? Third one is, does it improve security or data protection? Fourth one is, does it happen with help with good old-fashioned obsolescence? Maybe it's an end of warranty issue or an end of life issue for a product. And the fifth one is, does it provide any lower total cost of ownership or potentially a return on investment? When you look at your recommendations, and I'm actually going to choose this one here, as you look at those recommendations, if in some way that recommendation can influence one of those 5 factors, choose those goals. And if you miss a goal now and you need to add another one later, I'll be showing you in just a second how you can do that. So let's just say here we're going to attach those 2 goals. And now what I'm going to do is pop back to your strategy board, and you'll now see that those 2 recommendations have been tied to our business goals. So now we're starting to construct not only the strategic plan, but what work needs to be supported below that. So after we finish that IT review, we create these recommendations, and we start making our alignments, we've developed our technology roadmap. So now we're able to see exactly what projects are upcoming. We've got some detail if we roll over it, but we've got a visual view of the timeline, and then we're able to provide our CFOs or controllers at our client's environment, hey, this is the forecast. Next year, you're going to need $5,000 in new dollars, and that won't start until September. If you want to add your MSP contract into the mix, you can do that very easily here. If I was able to type, but you'd be able to, you can put in your MSP contract right here. We'll just use the QBR Q3. We can put in our monthly budget. And I apologize, I'm having a keyboard problem, but put in our dates. Point being is you can add your existing budget items into this view as well. And I can show you what that looks like within another client in just a moment. And then all these things ultimately build out our recommendation sequence. So our recommendation sequence is where we're really able to show in a client meeting all those projects that are upcoming. We're able to show them a little bit about the project. We're able to show the timeline that we're looking to deliver that project. We're able to show, tell a little bit about what the work is doing for the customer. We're able to show our dollars and cents that are involved, and we're able to see the goals and challenges that are aligned with it. If we come out here and see that we didn't put a goal or a challenge on the recommendation, we don't have to go back and find it within our IT review. We can just come over here and multi-select any of the goals and challenges we want to add to that. We also have approvals and completion buttons here as well. So these approval and completion buttons are really meant for a couple of different reasons. Let's start first with the approval. This is the approval of a project to be included in the technology roadmap. But what I really say to the an MSP is this is your ability to start trial closing your customer on these projects. You've given them a good faith estimate. You've shown them what the value is. And when you're in that QBR session, you want to get them to agree that, yes, this is a valid item we should then include in our technology roadmap. If it is, we click on approve. We'll now see within our technology roadmap that we've got this as an approved project that we can refer back to in year 2 and year 3 as we get closer to that project. And over here in our strategy board, we're also showing that we've approved that project here, and it really is part of our strategic plan. Come back over here, and now let's assume we've completed this project. We've finished this QBR event, and we're now in our next QBR event. And we've said, yep, we finished that project. We click on the complete button. You'll see it kind of gives you that green visual indicator here. But now within our roadmap, we still see it as completed, but on our strategy page, we see a little racing flag associated with it. At least we should. And that's what starts pushing up the meters. It might take just a second for that to batch out.
So when you go to the QBR, you're actually just going to be presenting this up with the customer, right?
Yeah, you're presenting this both in a screen, and I do recommend you still bring a paper report with some of the IT review items, because again, we do keep this section closed off by design so the customer doesn't get confused. Okay. But then we're able to start seeing, and now we've got our racing flag starting to come in as well. So you're able to see that we've tagged these things as completed projects, and we start pushing up the meters on how we measure our strategic goals and alignment. So this is how we're showing progress from QBR to QBR after the initial QBR on the work that we're doing for the client. And then we've got a couple other views here. I'm going to drop into a different customer to show you this, just so there's more data. But we're able to show a customer now anything that's open. So this is a great thing for those customers that you have projects that you should have already completed by this QBR, but they're not done because you're probably waiting on them. And this gives you an opportunity to, have that conversation and say, look, we've got 3 projects that should already be over the goal line right now. We haven't quite completed those yet. As a result, we're not really satisfying these goals and challenges that are aligned to it. Can you help us get over that goal line by getting us XYZ information? And then the other part, and I spoke about customer retention and long-term, we want to show the all statement too. You're in year 2, imagine you're in year 2 or year 3 of this process. You want to be able to show all the projects that you've completed over time and how that's contributed to solving the problems that they were facing, and then be able to show still what's coming up in the future as well. On the recommendation sequence, you can see all the items you've ever put into the system, but the roadmap is always a go forward view of all the projects that are upcoming.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And
but
then all that ties
to show value, right? To say, hey, this is,
Exactly. It's, it's a little patting yourself on the back in some respects. That argument can be said. But, the real reality is, hey, are we taking this information, doing something with it, and how are we progressing against the storm? Mm-hmm. Now, in the spirit of time, I'm going to just show you kind of what a final report looks like. So when we come into the final report here, you come in, you can develop your client, it'll go through the client strategy, show how you're progressing against the storm here. It'll show you your goals and any of the recommendations that are attached to it. It'll show you the business challenges that are attached to it, the IT goals, and this is where the scorecard gets introduced. So now you're able to see the overall score of everything you've assessed within the environment, both technically and process and policy, and you're able to identify where there's gaps. So over here in IT administrative as an example, even though we've got a good score and we're good all together there, we got some things we want to think about in our BDR plan that we might be able to improve. Then we summarize all the gaps so we can keep those things front and center for your customer. Usually this is all, this is an area that I bring to a summary meeting, and I'll show you what I don't generally bring. But we're able to show you anything that's not meeting best practices, technology, vulnerabilities and business risks. I'm going to go back to that customer that we built for a moment just because it's a little bit cleaner and show you how this all kind of looks a little bit quicker without having to scroll as much. So now we got those business risks there, and now we show our IT review. So here in this IT review, this is where we produce the report that the auditors really want. So we're able to show by type of thing that's being evaluated, subtype, and then individual topic, what those standings are. We've got engineering notes. We've got vCIO review notes. Again, for the customer, we got this best, very easy to understand best practice. As you go through here, you'll notice if we started aligning recommendations to the questions, those things in tickets to the questions, those all package themselves up. So here on that question that we just worked on, you see my new server ticket went in and we still have a status of open, and we've got the recommendations that we made that were associated with this. And as we move further down this checklist, and again, this is a relatively short one, but you can see there could be a lot of data that we provide here. It gives a customer their very clean look at their environment and a good 360 view of what they're doing here. We then summarize, because this is rather lengthy, all the tickets that we generated above, so you can see those in just a single pane of glass, all the recommendations that were generated as well. It then converts itself into the technology roadmap, so you can see the Gantt chart of how it's laying out. Again, your CFO view comes right here, so he now or she now understands exactly when the money is going to be required. And then you're able to come down to your recommendations down below, and you see your sequence, what's been completed and what's not been completed down below. And all of this, of course, prints out to a PDF report as well. Anywhere you see the vCIOToolbox logo would be replaced by your logo. And anywhere you saw color, when I was showing it to you there on the HTML screen, can be replaced by your brand colors within our custom report designer. So again, the report follows suit, looks very similar to what you just saw before. You can add page breaks into your report, do all kinds of cool things if you don't like the way it's laying out. And it's a really simple report that you can then provide to the client at the end with, for auditing purposes. So really, that's a pretty quick rundown on basically how we build the process, how we build the QBR deliverables, and kind of in a roundabout way how we present our report to our findings to a client in a client meeting. And again, once you do that first effort, all those values carry forward to the second effort.
Great. Now, how many, what's been the customer reaction for MSPs that are using this? What are customers saying?
Customers are really liking the way the technology roadmap's coming forth, because it's very clear and easy to understand. They also like the approval process as well as the feedback I'm getting, because now as the MSPs are making recommendations, there's really no question on which things that the customer's interested in, and that really kind of fosters a different conversation as you're going through the QBR. If they're unsure why they're doing a project, it gives that a chance to present and tie it back to goals. They really like the fact that you're getting more engaged with them strategically. You're trying to understand what their business is trying to achieve, and now they feel more confident, especially when they're not true technology buyers, that when they're making a heavy investment into a project that you've positioned or a new service that you want to deliver to them, that they've got good information that helps them support that. The argument could be it's a little bit biased coming from you, but the truth is that's why we have industry standards. That's why we have other things baked into this tool. So now the customer is able to make an informed decision, even if they don't understand the underlying technology. They know why they need to do it. So that's the feedback we've been getting from our customers. We're also seeing they like the standardized process, because one of the biggest complaints that most of them had is you come out one time and we see one set of reports, we come out the next time and we don't see another set of reports. And it's definitely, and the feedback I get from MSPs is it almost shuts down that tactical talk right from the start, because now you're coming in with this prescribed process in agenda, if you will, when you go in there, that keeps everybody a little bit more on track, and it empowers the MSP to say, great, that's a single effort. Today's really focused on strategy, so let's put that in a parking lot and we'll definitely come back to it and set up a meeting right after this one's complete. So that's the feedback. Clients also like the fact that basically they're getting a true assessment. Think of your doctor's offices as an example. These reports, and again, these reports, I in my history, not to go down that road, but I built a couple data centers. I was constantly being audited by KPMG and Accenture for both our data center services and our managed services we provided within those data centers. And then we also had to go through our SSA 16 SOC 2 audit, back when I was doing it. So those reports are really geared to follow the methodology that those auditors like. So as we were building out our templates, we were really building them on the questions that were being asked of us, and then creating the different, topic sections. But when you provide that report to an auditor, it really kind of follows the way they want to do it. And as you know, with any auditor you've got coming in, you really just want to make it a simple check the box process, if possible. So this is a check the box report. And, it kind of leads me to a little bit of our upcoming, if I can dive into a little bit of roadmap for a moment. We are building a suite of security-driven templates, because one of our goals with this platform is for our MSPs not only just to do QBRs that might be included under their contracts, but start driving new projects and new processes that can generate new revenue to the business. So we're building a NIST template right now, complete with recommendations. We're working on a HIPAA audit template as well. We just launched GDPR for our European friends. So we've got a number of different security templates we're putting in, so you can do one-off assessments and really be able to use this tool as kind of your reporting and an assessment tool from a policy procedure, and then marrying the technical that comes out of your other systems.
Okay. And so do you charge extra for these templates, or once you?
So the security templates will be an extra module when we do it, because it's going to be a little bit more conditional logic built into it, and pricing's still upcoming. That's set for Q4 of this year. But we do have other any new templates that fall under QBRs, and we do have some standard security templates like cybersecurity and things like that we make available there. No additional charge for any of those as well. And look, things are apt to change as time goes by. Another thing we're building into the tool also is a CSAT tool, and that CSAT tool is meant to be more like your Net Promoter Score, NPS CSAT tool. So in between these business reviews, especially for your customers that you're only going out every 6 months to a year, maybe not your large scale customers, you have a way to get feedback from them and bring it into this system, so you can determine if you're becoming at risk with that customer in between these events. Again, if you've got an $1,000 biller, you might not be going out there regularly, but they still matter, right?
Yeah.
They still contribute to your bottom line. So how can we keep engaged with that client? And that's coming in, and that won't be an additional charge for those on vCIO Pro. Hopefully it'll remove the need for spending on some other tools.
Okay. Now, from the customer perspective, do they get a login to this too, so they can work on some of their parts, or
So
is it?
so that actually is in development, and it'll be out in Q3, where we're actually going to open up the portal so the customer can log in, see what they would see in a meeting view, and be able
Okay.
to get reports. The only thing we want to do is make sure that we lock down that they can only see reports that have been completed and they don't see any work that's in progress.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But I was just wondering, because like on some of those where it needs approval, right? Will they be able to
Yeah,
go in and?
oh yeah, if you can send them out to that, absolutely. And
Okay.
you've obviously been in some of our meetings, I guess.
No, no, I haven't. I'm just, yeah, I'm just thinking
No,
from
I'm
a workflow
teasing.
perspective. It's like, do I have to walk them through it, or can I just say, hey, here's a link on some of the projects we have recommended? You know, we can
Yeah,
talk to
no,
them, but if it makes sense to you,
no,
approve them, and we'll get
absolutely.
started.
Those are some of the things as we continue to build and develop. We really come from we develop in an agile methodology, so we
Yeah.
have new releases that come out about every 6 to 8 weeks. Just the methodology that me and my partner Ken F, who's our CTO, he comes from those big agile environment development
Mhm.
houses in the past, less MSP, more from there, and he really believes in innovation and iteration. So we look for a lot of feedback from our user community. We live in the world of threes. If we hear something 3 times, there's probably some validity to it. So we start exploring and seeing how we can get into the roadmap.
Okay. Cool. I know you don't have to mention dollar amounts, but how is this licensed? Is it per company? Is it per user, per tech?
So funny you should say that. At this stage, we're kind of through this part of the process. Let me jump in here. Oh, actually, I don't think I have it in the slide, but I'll tell you how it's licensed. So it's licensed per number of people that you assess through. So what I mean by that is we have a program called, it starts at vCIO Pro 10, and really our goal is you grow into this platform because it does take time to do these assessments. So
Hmm.
we don't want our subscribers oversubscribing until they get into it. So at the vCIO Pro 10 level, we start, it's all right up on our website at $125 a month. Comes with a one-time installation charge of $299. What that $299 really covers is 3 one-on-one calls with your team to help build this, get it configured, get it customized how you need it, talk through some of the principles and processes, understand how you run, QBRs today, and marry that to the platform, and really work with you in a short consultative thing to get you out the door as well. As you move up the food chain, when you hit the 25 live assessment breakpoint, that's our next pricing tier, and we move up to 100, which basically is our top tier. Anything over 100 falls under that tier.
Okay.
And basically, what we say to our customers is, another key aspect is because we let you ingest all your customers from ConnectWise and Autotask, they come in as inactive to the vCIO Pro platform, meaning
Okay.
until you physically go in there, press the activate button, and start that customer as a live customer for assessment, it does not count against your subscription. The
Okay.
point of our integration is to reduce data entry, make it easy to move, get all the data you need ingested into the system, and then get started as you see fit. So we've got customers with 7,000 customers that they've brought into the system because they bring in their prospects and everything else, although you can filter those out. And then, they might only have 50 to 100 people that are actually running through this process.
Okay. Makes sense.
Perfect.
Great.
Any other questions?
Um, I don't have any. I don't have any from the audience at this point. So
Cool.
I think we're pretty good.
Good. Well, again, Doug, thank you for having us on. We really appreciate being able to share with you a little bit in your audience, a little bit about vCIOToolbox and our vCIO Pro platform. And certainly for anybody that would like to, schedule a demo or see more or get a little one-on-one, we do offer a demo and strategy session at no cost to you. You can come in, we'll show you what the platform's all about. We'll understand about how it's going to work, how you need it to work for you. And then we do also offer a 30-day trial for those that engage with us. So you got some time to really put the pedal to the metal in this platform and make sure it's going to fit for you long-term.
Great. Well, Brian, thank you very much. I know it's been informative for me, and look forward to hearing more about vCIOToolbox in the future.
Thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
Take care. You too.